The embargo on story spoilers has gone on long enough. We'll talk all about the 7.1 story and speculate on what's next. That and more on this episode of the SWTOR Escape podcast from newoverlords.com. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 453. And with me is my co-host, Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
Hi, Max. It's going great. How about with you?
Uh, it's going great. Did you want me to talk about how it's going? How about you tell me about how it's going?
No, this is, you just say, fine. It's going fine.
Fine.
I didn't think that would get you flummoxed. So yes, what's been going on with me? Well, I mean, let's talk about galactic seasons because I'm coming close to the end here. I have something like 87 out of 100 of the weekly tasks.
Yes.
I already finished 100 levels, and I have about somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 rep left to do. So that'll either be later this week or, beginning of next week on the rep.
Yeah.
And a couple weeks on the 100 targets. So looking good for galactic seasons.
Yeah, 87 on the meta achievement is pretty good.
Yeah.
You're more than me. I haven't done the ones for this week yet, but
Yeah,
you must
pretty
have been
much.
doing pretty much 7 at a time.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was only a couple of weeks where I did like 5 or 6, but it has worked out to be 7 every time without much. I mean, I haven't really had to like stretch and do something that I don't normally do. Like I don't normally go to the Corellia Cantina and try to catch people cheating at gambling.
Which
But
I
I've
do, because that goes so fast. That's one
no,
of
no,
my...
no. I mean, I did it for
Oh,
Galactic Seasons, but it's not because I was saying that mostly I haven't had to go outside of my normal activities, but
right.
catching gamblers isn't one of my normal activities. So
Sorry,
I feel
yes.
kind of creepy about it actually, because they don't get a trial or anything. I
No, they
just
just
point
get
at them.
dragged away, and they get like little handcuffs on. They get like...
Right.
I don't. I do like slash chair in slash chair 5 in one of my chairs, and I put my chair like right next to the two, like a pit boss, right next to the two, and I just wait for them, and I'm like, take them away, lock them up, take them away, boys. Yeah, I don't care.
I like to do the Corellia Cantina because if you use like the activities thing to go to Corellia, then the cantina is right inside from where you land. And also I noticed, probably everyone's noticed this before me, but I noticed if you go to a cantina like the Corellia one, where you normally have, where Paxton Rawl normally is hanging out,
Yeah,
and you have Paxton Rawl as your companion,
yeah.
then Paxton Rawl is not there in the cantina.
Well done. Little
Yeah.
detail, small detail, but I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And then if you dismiss Paxton Rawl, then he pops in and he's like lounging on the little half sofa there.
He's like, dismiss me. I'm gonna go have a drink. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Galactic Seasons. I kind of, it's weird because it's like a goal and you want to achieve a goal, but then it's sort of like I don't want it to be over either.
Right. Exactly. So it's
Um,
going to be done in a 3 weeks, and it's a nice goal. It's the kind of thing that I like having. I like having a list of something to do when there's not like, not like leveling up a bunch of characters. Although I could just roll a new character. There's another thing. Give yourself a goal. Be your own goal.
yes, make your own goals. Well, right now one of my goals is to open up Andron Daily Quests on a number of characters so that I can always go there and get some rep. And that'll be Andron is my next source of conquest rep. So rep for conquest. So I can
Runic
go
rep
there.
might be the thing I'm working on, and we'll look at it tonight. Potentially, maybe by the end of the night, that rep
Yeah.
vendor has some cool stuff on it.
I don't know why I'm like going in order, right? Like, because I haven't finished Andron and I haven't finished Manon. So I feel
Right.
like, but I don't need to go in order. You're right.
I like the Mudhorn mount on Runic, and I've been neglecting Runic So I think I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, that I like
Cool.
that route. I like that mount too. So that I'll have to double think that. Well, I
Mm,
mean, not really because I have to get those characters through to that point anyway.
right.
Yeah. Also, well, we had our ops night tonight. What we're doing in ops right now is we're collecting the currency, the OP-1. So
Right. Which are
the
about
best,
done on, but pretty
yeah.
close.
So tonight we did Dread Palace, and then we went and did that place that we did. Oh, Scum and Villainy.
Scum and Villainy, both of them.
Yes, the Scum and the Villainy. It's weird too because I still have these memories of when it used to take us a whole 2 hours to do Scum and Villainy.
Got these babies on Ord Mantell. You like?
Yes. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And then MFM was good. Kohler was here, and we did world bosses and a few rampages. Actually, I think I got like 4 Galactic Seasons targets randomly that night because I think one of them this week is also the 200k conquest points.
Right.
So yeah, I I think I'm at like 5 or 6 at this. Well, I can look it up. I have the technology.
You have the
Um,
power.
yes.
I have the power.
Um,
But you have more than me, as I said. I'm
I
only
have
down at.
4. I have 4 of 7 right now.
So how do
Because
you have 4 of 7?
because influencing the galaxy 200.
No,
Oh, that's I mean that's
I
today's,
mean,
but
how do you have 87? How you're 3 ahead of you're like 1 ahead of me. Like I missed one of the weeks, which I did not. I did not. I
well,
protest
let me sort of double check here in
because
case I
you're
remembering
at.
it wrong.
You said you're at 4 of 7 for the week. I'm at
4
two
of
of
4.
seven.
Yeah.
So that means I would be, if I was at 4 of 7, I would be at 86. You're at 4 of 7 and you're at 87.
Luck of the draw, I'm at 87. Yeah.
I'm missing one somehow. I don't know how that is possible, but apparently it is. Anyways, yes. Cool, cool.
So that. Let's see. And I do have so this I guess that's my goal. Like I was saying, like you said about Galactic Seasons, make your own goals. My goals is to work some of my high level characters farther through the story so that they can also play Imanon and Runic, which they can't right now.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I've been doing this week. How about you, Max?
Similar things. The countdown on the objectives is what I'm doing right now for the weekly objectives, getting to 100 on the countdown because I've done everything else. I've become legendary. I've gotten to Galactic Season rank 100. You know, one thing I'm not doing, although I may dabble in it still because it, especially when it comes in season objectives, is the PvP season. It hasn't pulled me in because, well, it's deceiving. They should have made it. They should have made it 100 instead of 25 ranks because it's each rank takes it's 4 times as long as like a galactic season rank, like 4 times as much effort, which makes sense because it's only 25 ranks instead of 100. But it's a lot. You got to PvP a lot, and I feel like the progress doesn't feel as satisfying. And I got stuff to do. I'm way behind on a bunch of stuff, so
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
consider
you
that I
have
need
to
to be
make
like
choices that
grinding
matter.
I can't do I can't do a dozen PvP matches a day. So it's yeah, I don't think I'm going to get through the PvP season. So we'll see. But it's still nice to have it there, and it's nice that there's still that track going. So we'll see how it feels down the road. And I do want to catch up with some of my PvP contacts and see how they're feeling about it as well. And maybe we'll do that in the next few weeks. But what we can do today is we can talk about the news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
What's up in the news, Seema? What's going on?
Oh
What's
yeah, what
happening?
is up in the news? Sorry, I'm getting like some cat aggro here. Yeah, so not a lot in the news, but I will say that they did publish a list of uh, what is this? Full list of January galactic season. You asked me if I was okay with the news, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yes.
It's
I totally misread that. Yeah.
it's the next
So
4 weeks worth of season objectives. Yeah.
yes, I get it. I was thinking it was events, and then I thought, no, wait, they did that last week. So yes, if you want to see exactly what's coming up in January for targets for galactic seasons, it's been posted
Yeah.
in the news.
And I called out a couple ones that I like just so that people might want to prepare for or look forward to. Next week, for example, Nathema is going to be a good flashpoint to go in solo. The bonus boss for Nathema, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to like kill 50 things. So it's a great one to go in on stealth. There's just a place you can look on the map, but in one of the outdoor areas before you're deep into the instance, relatively early, I think maybe just after the first boss or even before the first boss. But you just split off to the left and there's the two twins. You just got to kill them. They're the bonus boss. So that's a good one. And Nathema's got a ton of good decorations. 2 weeks from now is more of the, make some dark projects and construct some invasion forces, blah, 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 blah. Those sell for tons of money. I think it's like 13 million for a dark project on the GTN. But you'll want to save up your mats or farm some up this week. So in 2 weeks, you can make some more dark projects. And then also in 2 weeks, we'll probably on MFN do the champion droids and guards, opposite faction champion droids and guards. That's a fun one for us to do on Mandatory Fun Night. So join our Mandatory Fun Nights. We're usually knocking out a couple weekly objectives on our Mandatory Fun Nights, the group things for the guild. Not always, but often. So come join us on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central on Starforge for that. And then in 3 weeks, the Seeker Droid thing is coming back. Did you do that? I know you were doing it. Did you
I
get
did
it
do it.
done?
I did get it done. Yes. It actually was an exercise in remembering how all that works. And Medulla had put some of those buff items in the guild bank, the ones where they make it easier to find things, and it really does help.
Yes. Yes, it does. Use those. Look it up. You drop the droid. You got to go to an area where it says, "Hey, there's something in this area." You drop the droid. You wait for the little circle to appear around you and point in the direction. The little ring around you will point to kind of where you're supposed to go, and the size of the little wedge just determines how close or far you are.
And it can be extremely close.
Yeah.
I found out.
Yeah.
It's easy to overrun it.
Right. So
But it's kind of weird too because there might not be anything there.
Right.
If somebody has found something recently, then there won't be anything there. I don't like that aspect of it.
Right. The other thing that can happen is you can spawn a mob that'll come bite your face. That actually counts for one of counts for one of the 3 in the objective. So if you dig up a mob that comes and bites you, that's still good.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
This reminded me, Medulla in our guild, always in Discord, is putting lots of tips out there for the weekly objectives. One fun one that he's put out there a couple times is if you get this one, I think it's called Ace of the Armada, where you just need to do the old school on rails ship space missions. If you're doing that, you can do the basic one. I think it's called Jambin Escort or something like Jambim Escort.
Yes, on the imp side and on the pub side, it's like midnight
run, midnight in the Oasis. Anyway, you can do that one, the easiest one. If you just start it and walk away from your keyboard and leave, Fondor Escort. That's one. Jambim is on the imps and Fondor on the pubs.
It must be the operation is called midnight something. I don't know.
Yeah, you
Jabim.
don't. If you just start it and walk away, the ship will blow up, the ship that you're escorting, but you'll still get credit for completing it. So if you just start it and walk away 4 times and go make a sandwich, you'll complete it. That's kind of cool. The only other thing I saw in the news that I figured we could talk about is just to remind everyone that the 64-bit client testing is still going on in the PTS. They're looking to iron out all of those bugs. It's kind of a big thing. I'm really excited to get it to happen. So any time that you can spend in there trying it out, which I did as well, is good. So we can get that client going because it's going to really smooth things out like butter. It's going to be like playing with butter. Mouse made out of butter. Okay. Enough of that. Community news. As I mentioned, MFNs continue to be fun. Checking off galactic season objectives on our mandatory fun nights. That's really been fun for me. I appreciate when we do that. It's nice to like killing the champion guards. That's a pain to do yourself. Even to like find other people to group up with. There's a couple places where you can do it solo, but it's kind of a pain and difficult. Getting that done with a group is really nice. So come join us, as we said, Tuesday nights. And it's open to anybody. You don't have to be in our guild. We're happy to bring extra people along. Sometimes we'll throw in a lair boss, so then we might need to go down to 16 people. But usually a couple people need to drop because they're not subscribed at the time until BioWare puts back in the guest passes for operations, which I hope they will do someday. That would be great. But that is a fun thing. So come join us for that. Shout out to the chat room who's been very chatty tonight. This has been excellent. Thank you guys for keeping us on track, helping us get things fixed up at the beginning of the show, making sure I have all my audio working. I'm having more issues. I had 2 hard drives pretty much fail. One had was getting data corruption, and a second one was as well. I sent the first one off. It's getting replaced. It's a 5-year warranty. I bought them both at the same time. They're SSDs. They're large SSDs. The second one yesterday crashed my machine, and then the machine wouldn't boot until I unplugged it, and then plugging it back in, trying to get to it at all, it won't show up. So I had to reinstall a whole bunch of stuff, but we're working. Podcast is working, so that's good. And with that, I think we can talk about our story time. Oh, well, that's not working.
Power will be yours if you are willing to burn.
Story time. Spoiler. That actually was the sound effect I was looking for. I pressed the wrong one. I pressed unlimited power for some reason. Unlimited power. We're ready to burn. I'm ready to burn. We were burning in 7.0 and 7.1. So this is the 7.1 story, but we'll just spend 2 minutes catching up on 7.0 as well. As I said, spoiler. So we held off on this for quite a while to get everybody a chance to catch up. So this is your warning. We are going to get into it. We're going to talk about our impressions. We're going to talk about what we felt about the story, but it is a little bit spoilery as well. So coming into this, we started with all of the prior to 7.0. The lead up is actually where this started. This started in the 6.x timeline with Spirit of Vengeance and Secrets of the Enclave. Those were all 6.x things going on. And then on 7.0 with Manon and Ruins of Null, that brought us into this new modern story. It started in 7.0 really feeling like 2 completely separate stories, didn't it? We had the Malgus and Sahar thing. We even had the trailer, which was Malgus and Sahar, and nothing about the Mandalorians in that trailer. And in Ruins of Null, nothing about the Mandalorians. And then separately, we had the Mandalorian story that was going. That started in Spirit of Vengeance. Again, that was in the 6.x time frame, and then escalated with mostly with Shay just getting all hot and bothered over what was going on. I guess the Mandalorians weren't on Manon. So that just kept up sort of on the side, didn't it?
Yeah.
In the 7.0 timeframe, yeah. But they felt completely separate. We thought they were completely separate, but then realized as we were progressing, I think it was in the 7.0 at the end when we got one of the story beats where we found out that Rickon was hooked up with Hedda Cole, that we realized that these storylines were going to come weaving together. So what do you think of that? What do you think about the weaving of the storylines and how it's worked out? I kind of think it's
I'm
been
of
good.
2 minds.
Are ya?
Yes, because I kind of like having a side story as an option. But I also admire weaving them back in. So those are my two minds.
Right.
I like it when things diverge and then come back together as the general thing. But I also like having a side story. So there you go.
Right. Right. Like what am I thinking of? The pirate the pirate operation. Battle of no, not whatever you do, don't die. Sparky,
Oh,
she was a good girl.
Ravagers.
Ravagers. Ravagers is completely separate. It's a completely side story. And I like it. Duxon. Duxon is relatively or completely separate. Duxon was completely separate. That was Zerka doing crazy stuff on the moon above Onderon. Yeah, it's fun to have those going on. I think it was elegantly woven together. And I think that they've done a good job of weaving them together though, and I'm fine with it at this point. Um Overall though, so I like it. I like all the story. I like what happens in 7.1, and we'll go through that. I've got some video clips. We'll show some of the thing. It's all focused. It's almost all focused around the Hedekol and Shea Vizsla and the showdown on Runuk. It's named that. That's the point. That's what it was supposed to be about, and that is what it's about. One of the things I'm lamenting, though, is that Malgus is completely off the table for most
long
of this
time now.
expansion so far,
Yeah.
and maybe permanently. I don't know. This doesn't seem like Malgus's story, which I'm surprised at. I thought it was going to be Malgus's story. It also barely seems like Sahar's story. Sahar is like a dish rag, just or a leaf in the wind, getting blown from place to place.
And that's why we initially thought it was a side story.
Right.
Like the Spirit of Vengeance thing was like a thing going on to the I can say side story, but in a different way. A thing going on the side.
We did get also in the lead up to 7.1, and that's what I have up on the screen now, multiple short stories. And if you haven't read those short stories, they are kind of fun. One is Sahar. So when we left Sahar on Null, at the end of that content, there is a cutscene as we're talking to Malgus. It does shift back for a second, and you realize Sahar did survive on Null. We expected she did, and she found the relic. She found the Datacron that Malgus was after, and she grabbed it and she left. You do get in this short story All That's Left, which was back in August. You do get this short story where she's stowed away on some ship. This is how she's escaped off of Null. And she's sort of conflicted. She's thinking about what's going on. She's trying to figure out her place in the world. And her mind is on Rickon more than anything else. That's kind of her biggest issue. She feels guilty. She feels like it's a problem. She wants to go save Rickon or help him or get back to all of that. But it doesn't really come to a conclusion. I'm not seeing much of an arc yet for her. There was the instigating action, which this pivot point for her when she realized that she might be able to save her brother, and she was taken and her brother was not, and she was chosen and her brother was left behind, and he didn't necessarily have to be, and it disillusioned her. It broke her illusions, and so her illusions were shattered, and she stepped away. Now, she didn't really join up with Malgus at that point, not at all. She didn't join up with anybody. She stepped away from she was breaking away from her master, and then he got killed, and that broke everything down. So now she's kind of just like lost, as I said, like a leaf on the wind. She's just blowing from place to place. In this story, again, she's just sort of like blowing from place to place on this as she's trying to escape. And when we see her, and we'll catch up with her a couple times, she doesn't do very much, and she hasn't
really shown us she hasn't really shown us. Like, for instance, well, at the end of this story, for instance, when she walks away with Hedekal, she doesn't really say, "Okay, I'm in."
Right. And
So
I wouldn't think she would even want to be in necessarily. I mean,
I feel like we still don't know what she wants, and
yeah.
and maybe she doesn't know either. But I think that's yet to be found out.
And regardless, maybe that's all by design, and maybe that's just the kind of character she is, and she is sort of on the side. Whatever the case, I wonder whose story this is. And maybe there's not a single, it doesn't have to be a single arc, but it almost seems like I don't see a character development arc for Shea Vizsla in this. It could end up being like a Rickon character arc. It could be a Hedda Cole character arc, or they could
Well,
end up being like the main characters, and maybe Rickon is gonna develop, but nobody's like developing just yet. And I think there's an
I
opportunity
think
there.
I think yes, but that's because it's moving slowly. I don't think it's because it's not going to happen. Like
Right.
I think Sahar saw her, Jedi Master sort of got completely destroyed, or her idea of him when she kind of went from this like he's my master to, oh, I was stolen and my brother was left behind. So he was like, he didn't he that was what, use your word, Seema. So that was a big change for her.
Yeah.
And then she searches for her brother, and then her brother is not who she thought he was.
Right.
And
And
so
he's
she's
kind of pissed off at her and not happy to see her.
right. So she's like, well, okay, what do I believe in? Or what do I want for the galaxy? Or
Right.
do I even have a role here?
Right.
And maybe she will be convinced by Hedda Cole to join her in her efforts. But I don't think so. That's my
Yeah,
prediction.
I don't think so either. I mean, I think it's obvious that Hedda Cole's being set up as a villain. There's no kind of redeeming
No, but
aspect to Hedda
I
Cole,
don't
but
think Sahar is necessarily being set up as the good guy. I
no,
think we still have that to learn.
right. I don't know what she's being set up at, but I would be surprised. Star Wars stuff. I mean, they could write it differently, but Star Wars stuff is always relatively clear cut between good and bad. There's not a
Yeah,
lot
but
of
the good
shades of
and
gray
bad
typically.
could be, the Alliance Commander in Shea Vizsla and Theron Shan and Lana Beniko. And
And
Sahar could be another, rogue factor. She doesn't have to be the good one.
right, right, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I couldn't see her like just the way she's been presented and the way she's manifested so far, like that she would like go dark side and become some, even like a gray Jedi or a dark Sith or something.
I mean, that would be very Star Wars if she did.
It would, but
I don't want that to happen because
I think, yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
that's not my favorite kind of story. That's why I
and
don't want it to happen.
my only point in sort of getting into that is I would like to see more. I gotta find out where that's going, and if we're saying what we expect to be next, we've got to get some of that resolution out there. We've got to figure out what's going on with the Malgus and Sahar in particular, because nothing's really happening with them. 7.1 is not designed for that though, and 7.1 does have a lot of good stuff going for it and good story. Let's get into that. There's two more short stories that were the lead up to 7.1. Bottled Fury was a great short story with Shea Vizsla, and it's really like the Mandalorian stuff, and it really gets to lets Shea Vizsla flex a bit. One of the things that jumped out at me, with just I think it was maybe somebody in the chat room or somebody in our Discord mentioned, or maybe it was just one of the comments I was reading on some of this stuff in the forums. Shea Vizsla is a bad guy. Shea Vizsla was instrumental in the sacking of Coruscant. She, helped kill a lot of Jedi. She was not a good person.
Right.
In the same way that Malgus was a bad guy. She teamed up with Malgus and brought it all down. Now, I'm like running around with her as my companion and like helping her out, and she's part of the Alliance and blah blah blah, and I'm like buddy, and I think of myself as like white Star Saber, but killing Jedi is a good thing. Yeah. She's just Mandalorian doing Mandalorian things. I'm not criticizing her. Mandalorian's gonna Mandalorian. What I'm surprised is that I often forget that, and if in my
Right.
headcanon my character is very light side, doing the white knighting out there, I gotta remember that Shea Vizsla is not a white knight. she's she's a Mandalorian. Now she has had a character arc, and she did have to become the Mandalore, and that's not what she was when she was back at the sacking of Coruscant.
Right.
So she's developed, and maybe she's gotten over some of that rashness. In fact, potentially too much. And that's sort of the part of the story of what's driving the conflict between her and Hedda Cole. So let's get into that, and let's show a little bit of that off. The main conflict is Hedda Cole doesn't like Shea Vizsla leading the Mandalorians. She doesn't like the direction the Mandalorians are going. This started with Story of Vengeance. She stole the Caldera banner, and she stole a couple other things that were symbolic. And we'll get to, the Caldera banner. She stole some things that were symbolic to the current ethos of the Mandalorians, which is they are now like a mature, more organized part of galactic politics. They align with factions to get more things done. They carry their honor in the way that they interact politically with the Empire, for example, for the most part. And so Shay has continued that and taken that perspective of, yes, this is who we are and this is all good. And Hedda Cole and some of the others that are part of Hidden Chain that have now rallied under Hedda Cole's banner says that's not what the Mandalorians should be. And the Caldera clan, which is why they've got the banner, the Caldera clan were wiped out because they didn't go along way back in the original, back before the last couple Mandalores, when this was all getting set up and this was the direction that everybody was going to go and everybody was getting united under the Mandalore to be aligned with the Empire. The Caldera clan said, no, that's not who we are. That sucks. I'm not smelling what you're cooking. And as a result, they got wiped out. So that was viewed as, by the people that think maybe they had the right idea, as a tragedy. So now where they're at is Hedda Cole says that was a tragedy. They were on the right track. Mandalorians should not be beholden to anyone or aligned with anyone. They should be out basically marauding and pillaging and doing whatever we want, and not being good citizens in any way, but because that's what Mandalorians are, and they're going to go Mandalorian, and that's what they want to do. So Hedda's all upset. We don't know exactly where Hedda sort of really came from, and a little bit of that mystery still continues. But that's what this conflict is Hedda coming out of what she did on the assault on Spirit of Vengeance, found a planet that she could go, set up a base on. And this reminds me of how, not Kaizen Fez, who's our favorite, our favorite guy who set up a base on Denova that we had to kill 3 times before he died. Why is my mind going blank? Come on, chat room. Our Kaizen Fez's mutant cousin, raised by the Kefis.
Oh, Kefis.
Jeez. Seema went blank there for a second too. Kefis, of course.
Well, no,
Kefis. So Kefis. So Kefis took over the planet of Denova because he was setting up a base under the direction of the Dreadmasters, because they needed a base of operations to develop this rogue faction that was going to go off and really wreak havoc on behalf of the Dreadmasters. But it seems like there's a bunch of these planets up for the taking in the galaxy, and you can go take over a planet and set up a base, potentially. Hedda Cole found a nice planet to do that. It's the planet of Runuk. It was a mining operation. It's got a lot of infrastructure set up that they could utilize, including like landing pads and places that they can come land in, some communications infrastructure, and some operating infrastructure like plumbing and things like that I guess Mandalorians still need plumbing, which is useful. It's useful to them. It's also obscured. It's got storms. It's off the beaten path. It's not easy to find. However, Shae Vizsla tracks him down. Shae was chasing information in the 2 short stories. She also chases down and nearly catches up with Hedda Cole on Nar Shaddaa in the Snare short story. And now, through her back channels, she's tracked down these signals on Runuk, and this is where she believes that the base is. So this is where we start. What do you think of all of that? I'm just throwing it over to you for a second, Seema. Anything to add there? I sort of just blurted out all the backstory.
Well, I have to say, when I was watching the story, I was a little bit confused about the point with the Kadera banner, and I did have to go back and do some reading about it to sort of get it in my mind, because my character, my Merc, is married to Torian, and I didn't immediately make the connection of why the Kadera banner would be this like hated thing. And I don't know that Hedda Cole actually is doing what she's doing for the reasons she says she is.
Maybe not.
Like, I feel like she's doing it, the way she's rabble-rousing and getting people behind her is to say, we're Mandalorians, we're better than this. But I think ultimately it might turn out that she's just, that she's just after power.
Possibly. I don't think so. I think she does.
You think she really feels that?
That she does really feel that, and I just had an idea. I had an epiphany. So if we're going to talk about possible, future, where is this coming from? We're at the beginning here. We're watching the video play, and it reminds me there's this conversation in the video, in the cutscene in the beginning, where Shae Vizsla is saying, "I'm still confused on where she came from. She looks like a Mandalorian. She fights like a Mandalorian, but
right.
I don't know where she come from. I don't know what if she.
If I don't know her, how can she be a Mandalorian?
Right. What if she is Clan Kadera? She's like a surviving member of Clan Kadera. So
twisty.
Not only does she believe it, but she believes it because this is like her legacy to be the rebel and to believe it and to go down that.
Well, and so now she's going to like correct what she feels Clan Kadera did.
Right. The tragedy. No, that they were on the right path, and the tragedy of them getting wiped out. So she wanted the banner, and she like burned it because it was being held hostage as a symbol of the failure of Clan Kadera. So she wanted that symbol off the table because she wants to reignite the ideology instead. But yeah, I don't know. But I mean, from the only reasons it makes me think she's not just like in it for the power and backstabbing and conniving is something we'll see later with like Bask's son and him trying to like cheat in the duel, but that wasn't anything. Hedda Cole wasn't into that at all. So it seems like she's on the legit path. If they had her also cheating, then I would have thought that, yeah, then she's not on the up and up, and she's just in it for power or some other ulterior motive. But again, it could go either way. But that's where we start off. So Shae Vizsla says, I've also tracked her down to we think she's on this planet of Runuk. We need to go there. Let's go. And who do we get to come along with us? But we get our buddy. Where is my mouse cursor? There we go. We get our buddy Raz Ordo. So Raz Ordo has a pretty significant part of this whole plot. He's in it for a while and sort of a mouthpiece, helping get the story.
What do you mean by a mouthpiece there? You mean like
a lot of the dialogue is coming from Raz Ordo. A lot of the narration is coming from Raz Ordo.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
The description of where we're going, what we're doing. He's kind of like a narrator of
in a way. I mean, I feel like we really get to know Raz Ordo a little bit
Yeah.
through this story. Unlike, Sahar.
Right. Unlike Sahar. Yeah. Yeah. Raz is fun. He's humorous. He's funny. He's probably one of the best characters of this whole 7.1,
But
I would say.
didn't you think, or I did anyway, that it would be fun to have Raz Ordo as a companion?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
then,
because he's got personality. Because he's
but that
funny
right,
and
but
fun.
that's also he has a different standing in the story than Sahara, because like with Sahara, you don't think, oh, I hope we get her for a companion, or she might be a companion, or whatever, because she's too big of a character.
Right.
Maybe? I don't know.
No, I think that's valid. We probably won't get to it today. I know we won't get to it today because we're already way too long. But after the story is done, you get to talk to Lane Vizsla. That was another one where we're starting to get to know another character that I could see being a companion. But we're not going
And
to get like
she's not in love with Shay.
No, but she doesn't hate Shay. She's like she wants to make her own mark and not be overshadowed by Shay, her cousin. So yeah, Raz Ordo, great. Land on the planet. Raz is sort of in charge of some of the technical parts of the operation. He's kind of like giving us the quests that we got to go do. We land and we just saw there the probe droids detect us. I like that. I like the whole, that's very A New Hope with the probe droid on Tatooine trying to find the two crashed droid friends, R2-D2 and C-3PO. The probe droids have a strong place in my brain for Star Wars lore. To have the probe droids here and the probe droids detect you and you have to go like chase down and deal with them. I like that. I kind of got into that. So that's the kind of the first quest you got to go do. You got to go up there and a lot of then what you're doing on the planet's surface is tracking down the probe droids, taking over the comms towers. You can home in on the signal and blah, 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 blah. Which was still good quests and satisfying, but those quests didn't move the story along as much, but it did provide an opportunity in a couple places that we'll see for things to happen along the way and for more of the story to sort of show up and be going on. So we clear out the probe droids. We're up on the surface of the planet. One of the things that's coming up that I'm sort of alluding to is before I skip over it though, two things before I skip over it. One, on the ship ride over, we get reminded of, and they mention the Harangir, which is a Mandalorian faction who's really dirty and underhanded, not really into honor, but they're very into money. They're like old money, and this is
like
where
Taro
we're getting
blood.
Right. And
Way back from the beginning of the bounty hunter story.
So the Harangir are key part of one of the factions that we're dealing with on this planet. In fact, in the post story, we'll get to that further, where we deal very directly with the head of the Harangir and interface with that person. But we won't do that today. The other is Darmanda. So Darmanda, we met back in Meksha, which was Indigo. Indigo is part of Darmanda. Darmanda is non-Mandalorians. They're technically not even Mandalorians anymore. So what Darmanda is renegade Mandalorians who are sort of like broken off, and they're pure mercenary. They just sell their services regardless of honor to the highest bidder. However, Hedekol is using them, basically using them as cannon fodder, but paying them for their mercenary services. Raz had a really good little line in there, which is what caught my attention, which was some of them don't even know what Darmanda means. And what he meant by that was there is a definition for what Darmanda is, and it goes like this. They are soulless, someone who is ignorant of their heritage and thus had no place in the Mandalorian afterlife, so almost religiously void. The state of being Darmanda was regarded as a fate worse than death in the Mandalorian community. So that is Darmanda. Now, what he's saying is you got some of these, these Jackmos Mandalorians who joined up with the Darmanda just because, they're the low level thugs and just want some credits and don't even get, not only do they not even get Darmanda, but if they don't get what Darmanda is, then they never got what Mandalorian was either. So
Right.
they deserve the shame that hangs over them. So that was interesting. The other thing that I thought was interesting, where is it? It's at 14:05. So we're trying to track down these signals. We go into this. Here it is. We go into this station. We bonk. We meet up with some of these technicians. We kill a couple of the bad Mandalorians in here. A little bit of a gunfight. The technician pops up and says, "Wait! We're just techs here. We're just working here. Darmanda hired us. We don't even know who this head of coal is. Don't shoot." And we're like, fine. Okay. And Shea Vizsla's about to like blast their faces off. We get the option. The option I took was not to kill them, but merely to assault them with blunt head trauma and knock them out.
Right.
So this was Shay did shoot one of the dudes because he was
As a
mouthing off his
favor.
butt. Yeah.
As a favor to her, we just
Because he was
bashed her in the face with the.
Yeah, which is a trope in every bit of media everywhere. She's like, "What happens with me? I can either kill her, or I can knock her out. Well, got to keep you quiet for now. We can't have you talking to." Bam! I hit her with the butt of my gun on her head. This trope, blunt head trauma like that, is super serious. You can kill someone doing that. Don't ever think if you ever get into some situation in your life. In fact, I love when what movie was that? There's a movie where like somebody's like trying to knock someone out and like hits them and they're like, "Ow, what are you doing?" And like it's not working, and they're like hitting them. It doesn't work like that. You could very easily kill someone for one, or for two, if you do knock someone out, then they're not popping back up. Like we get that done to us. You're not popping up and getting into a gunfight and just like coming back from that in 5 minutes. And if you do, you're guaranteed to end up with permanent brain damage if you don't like give yourself basically concussion protocol treatment afterwards. Anyway, little rant there. Little side rant on blunt head trauma tropes in media. Okay, so we're getting more of what's going on the planet when we're running around. We're trying to slice these stations, and one of the things that sort of appears to us, gets revealed to us in doing that, because they have these little cutscenes every time you get to one of these stations where you're doing a little scanning, is we see through our macro binoculars. We see someone. Am I going to do it here? I think I'm doing it right here. We see someone who's integral to the story that is going to be important. Is Rickon. So Rickon's here. So we knew Rickon was connected with Hedda Cole. We find out that Rickon is here on Runuk, and obviously going to be part of the story. Rickon does play a pretty significant part in a couple different ways, especially in some of the final cutscenes. You'll also see in the final cutscenes Rickon in his full Mandalorian armor set, which is the set that you can buy on the cartel market. And it looks really good. Here he is without his helmet. It looks much better on with the helmet on, because it's not just that skull cap thing. We'll see that in the cutscenes in the battle at the end. It looks really good on a Twi'lek. If you need armor for your Twi'lek, I know we talked about this, but more blunt head trauma.
Right.
He headbutted the dude. The two Darmanda were getting chewed out by Rickon. Anyway, it's a really good armor set. I like it, especially if you've got a Twi'lek and like vet that you want to have some cool Mandalorian armor. Get that armor set, color it up however you want, and it looks awesome. Who else do we meet along the way, Seema? Which we were surprised at that that she showed up, which is at 42 minutes in.
I don't know who you're referring to.
Sahar.
Oh yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting to see her.
Right. I wasn't expecting her to see her hanging around. And that's what she kind of does here. She hangs around. So I don't know what she was doing here. She wasn't like, she's not really like working for Hedda Cole at this point, but she was hanging around in this station. She was like part of Hedda Cole's organization because Rickon pulled her in and said, hey, this is a way for you to help out with what I've got going on. So maybe she was doing some stuff, but not very much. And so she was like hanging out here in one of these stations. We confront her, which is interesting. She's got a really nice pink lightsaber blade. She's got a nice little color scheme going on. She's got the purple eyes, the green skin, the pink blade. She's got a little nice ensemble. Anyway, Shae Vizsla takes a pot shot at her, tries to shoot her in the face. She jumps out the window, just a little conversation. We say, hey, we know who you are. Really stood out to me the quality of character model. Again, the character model of Sahar compared to like our, which we were saying last week, the 12 polygons that make up my face versus the
Right.
the nanite texture that makes up Sahar. This is the kind of place where it really stands out. But we're trying to talk Sahar down. You got some choices in the conversation. We would like to figure out what's going on with Sahar. I'm trying to calm everyone down. Shae takes a pot shot, though. Did you do anything different here? You probably did similar things because you're not going to try to kill Sahar.
No.
You light-sider like me. Yeah. Yeah, chat room saying Shae Vizsla is shoot first, ask questions later, which normally I wouldn't think anyone should try to shoot it at a Jedi or a Jedi trained person, but Mandalorians certainly can go toe to toe with Jedi under many circumstances, and technically Sahar's only a Padawan. Someone I think in the chat room earlier was saying she seems unusually powerful. Like if you saw her in the fight with Malgus, for example, unusually powerful for a Padawan. Padawan's power levels can be potentially equivalent to Jedi. The Padawan is more about their maturity level and their ability to control their power. That's what gets them to the point of being Jedi Knights. Along the way,
Also,
there's the storyline.
it's fairly traditional too in MMOs that the story characters don't have the exact same toolkit that player characters do.
Right. Yeah. And if you go to an MMO like World of Warcraft, they also are 1.5 times as tall.
Yes, they're huge.
Every story character is 1.5 or 2 times the height. They're like a different race in addition. I don't know what was going on there. So again, now we're freaking out. We still, because Sahara was potentially going to warn Hedda Cole, we're breaking radio silence or not. There's a little story choice in there of, are you going to we know that we're discovered and our pals, which is, did we mention that Akavi showed up? Yeah, Akavi showed up. So Raz and Akavi went off to do one thing. We're off to do another. We're afraid that they're going to get ambushed. You can call them up or not. That's a minor story point and minor choice, but they mention it later. Doesn't really change the outcomes. Then you need to go do a thing because Shae is going to go and do what she needs to do. We're splitting up even more. As you split up one more time, what happens? But you get ambushed and Hedda Cole shows up and she's got a new toy, which is the amplifier from what's the movie where they turn it up to 11? I just forgot. The amplifier from that movie shows up, and the sonic weapon. Oh wait, why do I have? Oh, it is Shae Vizsla. Does Shae Vizsla get hit with it too? Oh, no, she gets locked out. That's what it was. She got locked out. You walked in, you get separated. That's what it was. So this is where she leaves. You spinal tap. Thank you, chat room. So the amplifier from Spinal Tap gets turned up to 11 and blasted at you, 3 of them from multiple directions, some sort of sonic weapon that's going on, or some sort of energy pulse thing. But once it focuses in on you, it debilitates you. You're basically laying on the ground, and Hedda Cole says, "Ha, you walked right into my trap." Snidely whiplash. You try to shoot at her. Rickon can deflect your blaster bolts apparently, which is amazing. And we see the gang is all here. Bask Sun is here. Rickon is here. Hedda Cole is here. She confronts you. She says some things like, "You like my new toy? You fell right into my trap. Am I gonna now murder you or use you as bait?" Probably the latter. You're trying to find out what is going on. She doesn't really tell you much. And she then takes you prisoner, which is kind of fun. Shea Vizsla tries to break you out, but it isn't enough, and they get you away. She does challenge Shea Vizsla to a duel, though, and this is what sets up the finals. This is sort of like the final sequence. The duel. This is where we get to, Seema, the fact that I think that Hedda Cole does have some sort of honor. She's not just in it for the power. Why would she accept the duel? Why would she put herself in harm's way when she could just now tell her team, just shoot her? She's standing right there.
Because
I've got a
she'll
gun, and
cement her power better, and she'll get her way more
Maybe.
strongly.
maybe.
And she I don't think she feels like she can lose. I don't think she feels like she's risking anything here, even though we know she is.
I think, but we find out that she does go into it in a straight up fight, though. So she's got to, although there now Rickon knocks us out because they need to take us prisoner, and we get blunt head trauma and dragged off. Look, they're even dragging us. So we're knocked out to such a degree that they're dragging us unconscious into off to be imprisoned. We wake up as we're being dragged away. So this is significant neural trauma. But Raz Ordo comes and saves us.
Yeah, what Starry Saber said. I mean, it's she feels that Shay is a figurehead, and that she's,
But if you're just in it for like the power or for the money,
I don't know why you keep saying just for the power and the money.
Okay, well,
All I'm saying is I don't completely buy that she believes the whole this is, for honor, and this is for restoring the Mandalorians to where they should be. It was like it's restoring the Mandalorians to where they should be, because
she
then
just
I
wants
would
to be
be
the Mandalorian. She just doesn't care.
I'd be the queen then.
So as long as I'm queen, I don't care. I'm just using this as a.
Well, that's an extension that I didn't put on it, but if you want to, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And we'll find out, and it could be. I'm not discounting that, but it seems to me she's being written as like believing what she's saying and putting herself in a position to sort of like take on the challenge and challenge. She does want to embarrass and put down Shay, but she's doing it in a Mandalorian way.
Sure.
But yeah, maybe it's just to win, and get herself ultimately to get herself in power. But if it is closer to her actually thinking this is, I think it's closer to her actually thinking it is what it is. Wow, look at that big skull on the floor. Where did that come from?
I noticed that too. It's like, why is there a giant skull? What is
Yeah.
that? Are there giant humanoids around?
Yeah, but I think one of the main characters from WoW popped in. That's their skull. Okay, so Raz Ordo grabs us and says, "Yeah, Shay's gonna go through with this." This now gets us to the point in the story where a lot begins to happen as cutscene. So we fight our way through. We see the duel kick off between Shay and Hedda, and there is an interlude within the cutscene where we go off and do something else in between. But this is literally like 25 minutes. Let's see where it ends. Yeah, it's like 25 minutes of cinematics, or 20 minutes of cinematics and cutscenes, and there's little bits where you're playing parts in here too, which is good. We want that to be happening. But the filming, the voice acting, this has been bandied about as, and I've said it on Twitter and other places, that this is some of the best cutscenes we've ever had in the game. And I completely agree with that. I just see that. And we'll see more of Rickon, but Rickon just showed up there in the stands, his arms crossed, and he's got that cool new Twi'lek customized Mandalorian
I mean,
helmet.
Hedda really is a great character. When she first appeared, I didn't really get how great she is.
Right.
But this part of the story really brought that home.
I'm going to turn this on for a second so we can hear her voice. The voice acting did change in 7.1, and the new voice actor for Hedda, I think, kills it. So, let's play this here.
I want to show you something. A weapon. One of the greatest ever created. It's been honed, tested, and delivered to devastating effect.
There's a little bit of an accent there. It's a little bit foreign. A little bit of a twist on just just a standard sort of Midwest dialect that we would hear, that I think really gives some flavor to the Hedda character. And then I think the voice acting is just on point from a emoting perspective as well.
Yeah.
But I like that accent. That was the part I was sort of getting to. It's just such a nice little twist and added on there. That's not the normal voice of the voice actor. So she either invented that in concert with BioWare or did that herself and presented this as the voice and created that. And I think it's really good. So this is where the scene is set up, and it is orchestrated to. I mean, it's a little bit of a circus. Hedda has orchestrated it in order to really drive this point home to all of her followers. Now she somewhat speaks. Is she like filming this? I mean, how is this going to get out to the rest of the Mandalorians? I forgot about that. Is she like? She must be like filming it and recording it, because the point would be to make this scene and drive it home. And if she could defeat Shay as part of it, then really sort of cement the strength of her position. She starts out with the little dramatic effect of the Kadera banner, and she burns the Kadera banner as symbolically
With them,
to
for defending
say
Mandalorian honor.
again, symbolically to say that was wrong, that was a tragedy. This has been held over our heads as a way to of something that was wiped from our history because it was wrong and bad. I'm going to destroy this relic that has been presented in that way because that was a mistake and that was a tragedy. So she does that. She sets up Shay. She plays to the crowd. She puts on this, either it's an act. I mean, it's certainly some theatrics. So there's that. This isn't just, I'm just going to do a straight up duel, and because that's the Mandalorian way. Huge amount of theatrics, but she must be intending to use this to show off to the rest of the Mandalorians,
or to become like a rallying story that people spread throughout the galaxy. Yeah.
Cool little ritual fight. They use these blades, ritual fighting blades, which I think looked good and felt good. They also use their Mandalorian skills. They use their rockets and flames a little bit. This is the scene where we get to see Shay run in. I think all of this, camera angles, panning of the camera, the thumping of the chests, this going on, filmed well, staged well. You know who's an expert at cinematics? Ashley. Ashley Rule. So
Yes,
I see Ashley's fingerprints all over this in a great way. So
I do too. I definitely think
I mean,
that is awesome.
I
Yeah.
mean, it keeps cutting to you looking through. You're like behind a grate. You're seeing down into the arena because you found a way to look down, but you're like way up behind. It keeps cutting to you there. The action, the filming of the action parts of the scenes, it's dynamic.
Yeah.
It's cut. The cuts are good. Rick, it keeps flashing to Rickon, and he's got his arms. I mean, you're like getting emotion, even though he's wearing a helmet. He wants Hedicole to win, but he's reserving judgment. And then what happens is something goes wrong. This is sort of like the interlude where you get to play a part. I love that, running through the flames. She's just like, Hedicole blasts up into the air, shoots the flames down onto the platform. Shea Vizsla, Naruto runs through the flames and punches Hedicole in the face. They're going toe-to-toe. It's pretty evenly matched. And then something happens. And it's pretty obvious that there's some sort of problem. And Shea Vizsla's, I mean, you can see what it is. You can see the effect in the air, us as the player. And then you as your character can see something's going wrong too. And you're like, oh crap, what's up? It's Bask's son with some shenanigans. He's got the speaker from Spinal Tap. He's turned it up to 11 again, and he's blasting Shea Vizsla with it. And so you go to track him down. You can see that he's doing it from the other grate on the other side, and you get a little interlude. You can see Bask's son with his little pompadour and his smug look on his face over in the other grate. You get to go.
That is very smug look. Yeah.
You get to go run through the corridors, run through the ventilation, up the ventilation shaft. They have gone up the ventilation shaft. You get to go do that and track him down and confront him. You do, I think, get the chance. So you shut it off. You save Shea Vizsla from the damage that it's doing. Bask's son was doing it, and he tells you here he was doing it without Hedicole's knowledge. This wasn't, Hedicole didn't ask for this. This was not supposed to be part of it. So Hedicole was going for a straight up battle. When I first saw this going on, I thought, oh, okay. So Hedicole is a pretender. She is cheating. She has no honor. However, then it came back when it turned out that Bask's son was just doing this because he's got a lot of money riding on this fight in bets, and he wanted to stack the deck to make sure he covered his bets, and he because he's got his hair gel that he's got to buy. And Daddy needs a new. He's a Dapper Dan man, and he needs his pomade. Anyway. I think you get a chance here to kill Bask's son, don't you? He tries to cut you in on the deal. You, of course, say no. You blow up the machine. Shea Vizsla can now get a little more even fight, although she is a little bit weakened after getting blasted by that thing. But don't you get to... Yeah, I think you get a choice to... Chat room, do you know? Yeah, you do get a chance to kill Bask's son if you want. I must have skipped over it, which I think is a shame because that means, yeah, knock him out. Here we go. Again. You get the choice of killing him or merely inflicting blunt head trauma.
or merely potentially killing him.
All right, so here's the problem. We just, bam, I blunt head traumaed him. So here's the problem. Bask's son now is just eliminated as a key character moving forward which is a little bit of a shame because he was a fun, slimy character to have doing stuff. Also, now the fleet that was away, and our fleet is coming in as backup. They're now rappelling down into the arena. Shea Vizsla was saved from being defeated outright by Hedda Cole, but because the speaker was being blasted in her ears, so she's not that's not happening. But now Shea Vizsla's faction is now rappelling down into the battle. We're trying to, and Hedda Cole's fleet. I think Hedda Cole's fleet has come back too. Is that who we're fighting against? Yeah, our fleet, and now all of the Hidden Chain are now duking it out down here in the arena. Kind of reminds me of the arena scene from Star Wars Episode 2. Yeah, Episode 2, where the clone army arrives, and the Jedi and the clones need to fight with the robot droid army, and Yoda says, "Around the survivors, a perimeter create." That's my favorite line from that scene. Reminds me of that. You do a lot of fighting in here. I almost tried to move my character to fight those, to go shoot those bad Mandalorians.
Right.
You do some fighting here. A couple people have said that you seem a little Kavi comes and fights with you here. You seem a little
As a spectator?
underpowered. No, just a
Oh.
little underpowered. I think, like, because you get like knocked out, or you get like knocked back a couple times. You kind of like lose a little bit in some of these fights. Shea Vizsla is down for the count, so you're trying to protect her. Some of her Mandos are there. Rickon comes, and you get a little showdown with Rickon. So Rickon blasts Ras Ordo in the chest. That happens. Bang, bang, bang. Ras Ordo takes one for the team. He doesn't die, but he's sort of like out of it a bit. Yeah, Rickon is kicking the crap out of Ras Ordo here. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by watching this. Let's just tell the story.
Yes.
So there, he just took a blaster or a shock sword to the chest. Then he gets blasted back. You jump in and are helping out. And who comes in to save? Rickon. But Sahar. So this was another point where in the story, Sahar to me seemed relatively, we sort of skipped over it, but she does come here. She seemed to not have much going on. She comes in and saves her brother, escorts him off the field. But was she like fighting at all? She's like a Jedi. She could have like taken out a whole bunch of just the regular Mandalorians on Shay's side, and she like.
But which side would she fight on?
Which side is she on? We don't know.
Right.
She's on her brother's side, obviously. She came in to save her brother. In theory, she was on Hedda Cole's side coming into this because she came in with Hedda Cole. Rickon like enlisted her into Hedda Cole's business.
Except for I don't think that we know for sure that she knows what Hedda Cole's business is. That
Right.
she arrives and he takes her to Hedda Cole, but I don't I don't think she's all in with Hedda Cole at all.
I don't think she is either. I agree. Now there's two more scenes which I think were interesting, and we're late on time here, but they're definitely, I think, again, well done. Hedda Cole escapes. Shea Vizsla gets rescued. We get to catch up with Shea Vizsla in the hospital. We'll back to Sahar in a second because that happens as well. But we get to talk to Jakaya Ordo and Ras Ordo. They're both hanging out. Remember, they're brothers. And we get to catch up with Shea Vizsla. Shea Vizsla is, and this is not a scene you often see especially in SWTOR, but even in like post-fight, post-battle kind of thing.
Right.
She's laid up in the hospital. She's wearing like an all-white cotton gown. She's got no shoes on. Because she got beat up pretty bad. Not only was she in the fight and like blasted by Hedda Cole, but she had the weapon on, blasting her as well. So she was knocked out a bit, knocked down there a bit. And we get to see her in a more vulnerable state, which you don't often get in this kind of thing, which I thought was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. Thought it was very interesting.
It was kind of staged well. They took the extra time to like make, get this medical outfit for her, which I don't think we've seen. Oh, there, Starry Saber even mentioned it. A Shea Vizsla hospital gown outfit. I think that would be good with those like little foot wraps that she's got going on. I think that makes sense. You could set up one of your companions in your stronghold with all the medical decorations as a patient.
And it could be a good like base for some costume idea.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was a nice little touch. And again, well filmed, well staged, and allowed some of like the post fight wrap up to happen in a very natural, realistic way. Another set of post fight wrap up happens in Hedda Cole's fleet, who's now escaping. They did make it away. Hedda Cole's on her flagship with Rickon and Sahar. Important things happen right here, though. So let's talk about it for just a second. So she's mad. We get that she's mad that Shea Vizsla defeated her, kicked her off the planet. She says Shea Vizsla did win. She's saying she's feels defeated in this moment. And Rickon says, but we potentially have more going on here. I've got potentially another ace up my sleeve. Let me introduce you to my sister. She's got this thing.
But
So
he
Rick,
also says, no, you won because everyone's going to know that Shea Vizsla this or that or the other thing. I didn't
he
really
tries to
catch
prop
his.
her up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he does try to prop her up.
Come on, buddy. You did fine.
But she's like, no, this is not how I wanted it to end.
But Rickon does this little move where he says, no, you're good. I don't know, maybe he's got a thing for her or something.
Maybe,
You're
yeah.
still my favorite. You can still do it. In fact, my sister's got this thing that maybe could help us out. And Sahar goes, "What are you doing? I told you that was a secret. You're not supposed to tell anybody this. What are you revealing this at this moment? This is a problem." So Sahar does get a little upset here and says, "You weren't supposed to do this." But Rickon says, "Hey, you agreed to help me. You ruined my life. You should help give it to somebody with honor to do something with it." Sahar again looks defeated. She looks like a leaf on the wind, and kind of like gets, Hedda Cole puts her arm around her and says, "Oh, come on, let's go chat and let's go talk about it." And Sahar kind of just goes along with it. Bloop-a-doo, okay, downcast, eyes looking at the floor. All right, I guess I'm doing this now. This thing that I told Rickon not to tell you, I guess I'll tell you all about it.
No, she's not thinking that.
But she didn't even protest anymore besides telling Rickon you weren't
Because
supposed to tell her.
But what good would protesting do?
Well, but that all Rickon had to say was, "You said you would help me," and she goes, "Okay, all right." She did, she's not like,
And so you think that indicates that she's agreeing?
yeah.
Okay.
So Hedda Cole puts her arm around her and they go walking off.
I think it's just more of what you said earlier, of leaf in the wind. She's like,
Yeah, maybe that too.
I mean, right now, her brother's not her ally. Nobody's her ally. She's in this foreign
Yeah.
place.
She's definitely lost. Yeah, I'm not saying she's even consciously making this decision that she's going along with Hedda Cole, and maybe she'll rebel, or maybe she'll come to her senses at some point in the future, like in the next chapter.
Oh, I'm counting on it.
But at this point, she's just like lost, and she's just like going with it.
Yeah,
And look, she's like downcast.
that's what I think.
looking at
I
the
think
floor,
she's.
and she's.
I don't think
like,
that she's gonna give the weapon to Hedda Cole. That's not what I got out of that scene, anyway.
Well, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I did, this weapon is too dangerous, but Rickon says, "No, it's not. We should. People with honor should control it. We know the cost of being powerless." And she resigns herself to his truth in that downcast look, and goes off with Hedda Cole.
I took the downcast look to mean my brother doesn't get it.
Hmm. Yeah,
I went
took
all
it
this way to
as
see my brother, and now he's a stranger to me.
I took it as her getting emotionally pushed around by her brother, and she's still sort of like she hasn't forgiven herself for that, and she's beholden to him.
Yes,
And
I
if
get
he
that too.
tells
But
her
what
to go do this, that she would go do it. Still
yeah,
at this
okay.
point.
I got this. I got the first part of what you're saying, but I
Yeah.
don't think she's gonna. I don't think she's decided to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's walking off with Hedda Cole. We'll see what happens when they get to wherever they're going.
Yeah.
Then, even more important, I think, is what happens when the camera pans back to Rickon.
Yes, that is a moment.
So here's Hedda Cole. He smiles for a second because Sahar's going to do what he says. Hedda Cole puts her arm around Sahar. They go walking off, and Rickon's face falls a bit. He
It's the
sees them
Jedi
walking
moment
away.
all over again.
His fists clench. It pans down to his hands, and you see his fists clench. You see his face turn into a frown. He shakes his head and he turns away. That I think was a pivotal point in this sort of narrative and scene. Show don't tell going on right there in a really good
I
way.
agree. Yeah.
So I think we saw more sort of like development and character arc from Rickon in this whole thing than we did from Sahar by a lot.
Oh yeah, we don't know what's going on with Sahara at all, really.
Right. I think we did learn more about Hedda Cole, but maybe we don't. Maybe I'm coming to a wrong conclusion, but I kind of think Hedda Cole is after what she says she's after, which is she has this different
Then
vision.
why all the theatrics?
Again, to make the point to everyone else that she's right about what the vision actually should be, and this is
Right.
what it means to be Mandalorian.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
To get them on her side.
yeah. They had definitely theatrics to do that, but to make that point, not to merely do it just so that she can get herself in a position of power, but to make the point that the current way that they're operating is weak, and to showcase that weakness, to burn the relics of the past, to get everyone on the side of the true vision that she wants to propose. As opposed to, but definitely with herself in a position of power, as opposed to what we've seen from Malgus so far, which is, this is the path I want for the galaxy, and I'm even willing to sacrifice myself in the plans as well. My plans are out the door. That train's left the station. This is the conversation he had with us at the end of 7.0, remember? When we go and confront him in the prison, we finally get him to talk in one of the story beats. That train's left the station. You can't stop what's coming. I've succeeded, even if you keep me locked up here forever.
But I mean, that's the typical Bond villain speech.
Yeah. I'm sure he doesn't want to stay there. He would be happy to get out and still rule over everything that he's put into motion.
Yep.
But I like the purity of his execution so much.
Oh yes.
In the way he's
and that is like one sort of closing comment I wanted to make, and Machete pointed to it too in chat. Rickon blocked a blaster bolt with his blade, which is traditionally a Jedi Sith ability. Like, I thought in the original cinematic with Malgus and Sahar that they both were force sensitive, but she was just more force. She had more.
Yeah.
And that's why they left him behind. And looking back on that, I don't know that it makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't the Jedi have just taken both of them? But all of the cinematic, he doesn't do anything remotely force-y, except for that one move.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's kind of like a,
I mean, it didn't have to be
samurai
a force.
blocking a bullet with the
Yeah,
blade
absolutely.
too.
It doesn't have to have been the force.
Right.
But
maybe. But yeah, it's like a
No, I'm not.
little.
I'm not saying that he is force sensitive. I'm just saying that I assumed he was in the beginning, and now I think he
No, I
possibly
assumed he
isn't.
was also. I mean, wasn't there a moment where he, as you said, didn't he like move a thing a little bit, but Sahar could like, you know,
Move it a
juggle
lot.
5
Yeah.
balls in the air? He was force sensitive because he like get the little thing off the ground. But
Yeah.
it just wasn't enough. He wasn't, he definitely couldn't cut it as a Jedi, so that's why they left him behind. Anyway, so there we go. We rambled and rambled and talked and talked. Plenty going on there in the story. And as you can tell, I enjoyed it. I think it was really good from a story perspective. Cinematics, again, some of the best cinematics we've seen in the game so far. The in-game cinematics. Yes, kind of like the Blur trailer stuff blows everything out of the water, which we expect. Couple moments in there because it was so cinematic heavy where I thought they could have given us a little bit more agency. Like the battle with Rickon, I think they could have actually let us fight, even if it had to like, come to a draw or get stopped halfway through so that Sahara could go take him away and we would, we stop everything and had a cool escapes. But I would have liked us to allow us to actually fight Rickon and not have to watch a video of us and Rasordo fighting Rickon. But still,
I mean, I've, for me, and I get that point, and I've heard other people mention it too. But for me, that was refreshing. That allowed the cinematics to be the whole fight, and frankly, me shooting them isn't that interesting to me right now because I've done that 1,000,000,000 times, right?
maybe.
What do you mean maybe? I'm telling you what I think or
No,
what my feeling was about it.
I'm saying maybe that's a way I could think about it as well.
Oh, I see what you're
Maybe
saying. Yeah.
maybe I agree with you. Maybe I don't.
Yeah. 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 Well, that's fine.
Yeah. No.
But I was okay with it being all cinematic.
Yeah. No. I mean that's what I'm saying. Maybe you're right, and it wouldn't really have been all that satisfying to again stop it in the middle so that I get to get a little couple shots off. And
I mean, and I think that's partly a little bit difference in our style too, because that part does feel kind of tedious to me whenever they introduce it.
if you are going to do that kind of thing, you do need to make it an interesting fight. They would have had to give him some abilities and,
some orbs that would roll around
a
the
game
room
out of it, not just bang, 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 shoot, 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 just like any other strong mob. And because that would have been boring and not worth interrupting the story for. So I think that's definitely true. And maybe that's a little bit too much work to bother with for that moment. And maybe we'll get a rematch and we'll get to fight face to face with Rickon. And then we'll get an interesting fight. Because Rickon's definitely still in play.
for sure.
Unless Rickon's going to get totally disillusioned with this whole thing and come to us and come to the Alliance and say, this went wrong. This went bad. This is not the direction I want to go. My sister's all wrapped up in this now. You need to, I will team up with you to take Hedda down if you get my sister out of this.
I see him just being sort of like inwardly destroyed and just going off somewhere and drinking himself into a stupor, not doing something active like switching sides or.
I don't know. He just seems like his character so far has just like been filled with so much rage.
Right.
I think that would have to be directed somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be.
So, super long. Let's finish it up with one final comment, which is, what do you think is happening with Malgus? Are we going to get Malgus?
I feel like
back in the next chapter? Is he still involved? Yeah.
Not to sound like a broken record, because I kind of said this about Sahara too, but I feel like Malgus is waiting, right? Like if he if it's going to turn out that he can escape, then maybe there's a reason why he hasn't done it yet.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
Starry Saber says maybe he's waiting to be released. Maybe he thinks that some
released or rescued, or like there is part of the plan that's like the prison break is still coming, like that
who would
kind of
that
thing.
be? Who would that be? Or maybe whatever happens with the holocron that Sahar has is going to be so profound, is going to that just activating it is going to release him.
Yeah, I don't know, because he claims like his plan is coming to fruition, and I would think, although I mean it did take there
Yeah,
was a lot of people that had to come join to take him down. Maybe he didn't expect that, but do you think he would have planned for that, potentially?
maybe
Like a
maybe his whole
mastermind, evil villain would have planned for that.
like I think this is what Machete is saying. Like maybe his plan all along was for this holocron to end up in the hands of Rickon, maybe, and Rickon's going to be the person who's puts the whole galaxy at risk, and we end up having to kill in the end.
Yeah, I
But I
don't
mean,
know.
but the main point there was that Malgus's plan all along may have been for the holocron to that Sahara has to be this agent of, or this object that's going to destroy things, and he doesn't have to do anything now.
That was and he planted the seeds, and he laid those pieces on the board.
Maybe Hedakol in some way is his creation.
Possibly. So we'll see. I do hope Malgus has some sort of resolution in the
I thought,
future,
yeah,
but I don't
Dark
think he
Eyed
has to.
Smoothwolf just said maybe he might revive Darth Null and create a new group of children of the Emperor. I thought his goal was something more along those lines, that he was going to go out and use the machine to find force sensitives and make some kind of, yeah, children of the Emperor kind of thing.
Right. But we obviously haven't seen any additional narrative along
Mm-mm.
those lines. I wonder if we will.
Yeah, I wonder too.
Because this did not close out the Mandalorian part of the story at all. I mean, Hedda Cole left. She now has another ace or another weapon, which is what she's now off talking to Sahara about, that maybe she'll get, maybe she won't. But she's still in play and in action. Rickon is as well. She's got at least part of her fleet, although it's pretty beat up. So that's not resolved at all. So there's got to be more of that Mandalorian story. So it can't only be, all right, let's get back to Malgus and see what he's doing. This Mandalorian stuff's going to be a key part of it still moving forward. All right. Well, this has been fun. I think so this was a fun thing to look at. When we were preparing for this, one of the things that I had neglected in the last few weeks is going through the extra part of the story with Lane Vizsla that happens on the planet. And there is story associated with that. It's not
Yeah, there
directly
is.
tied to this. It's not like a sequel to this, but they're cleaning up the planet. They're rooting out the rest of the forces that are there. And we do have it's a significant chunk of content back down on the planet with Lane Vizsla. It took me 70 minutes to go through that content, and I was not, lollygagging and sightseeing the whole time. So we will get to that. We will get to that potentially next week or in the next couple of weeks. We'll talk about that Lane Vizsla story. We'll talk about the dailies and what else is still going on, and a couple other really little fun things that were sort of discovered around that. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for sticking around. If you're still listening, for sticking around for another long. We've had multiple longs. Maybe this is now a 90-minute podcast. No, we'll get back to an hour before long, but our podcast will do whatever long we want. But yes, so these long ones are sometimes fun because we've got a lot to talk about. We did ramble quite a bit in here, so play it on double speed next time. You're warned. Thank you for sticking with us, though, if you stuck with us this far. With that, we will take our EPC 453 droid and kick it down an airlock to broadcast this episode, 453rd episode out there to everybody. All the feed and subscribe links are on newoverlords.com, and YouTube/newoverlords is the place to get the videos. You can also come chat with us in our Discord, which is at newoverlords.com/Discord. We ask questions about, hey, what else should we talk about in our story episode? What did you like about the dailies? That we're going to be asking that next week potentially. So jump in there in our Discord and help us with that stuff. That's always really fun. If you want to follow on Twitter so you get a feed of when things are going live, when the podcast gets published, you can follow me at Max the Gray or the channel Twitter feed at the New Overlords, and we'll keep you up to date there too. For the Alea Iacta Est Guild on Starforge and in all the games that we play, check out aie-guild.org. And the Discord link for that is in the upper right. You can jump in there, jump in our guild Discord. We've got a section for Star Wars The Old Republic. We've got guilds on the Republic and the Imperial side of Starforge. Ask us for a guild invite. We would be happy to have you. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.